Okay, item number 4, Mr. Dennis Lewis, Asset Manager, Solid Waste and Stormwater, request to extension of Turangi and Omori refuse transfer station. So Turangi and Omori don't go yet. We've got something else on here. Okay, Mr. Lewis.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, Councillors. You're going to see a little bit of me this afternoon.
Yes.
You might be sick of me by the time I've finished.
Just find me some roads.
I'll take the item as read and ask for any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Lewis? No, we're all a bit starstruck.
No. I've just got. Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I just had a question, Dennis, and it was more a philosophical discussion. Was that we seem to have a lot of contract extensions coming up for a variety of different types of services, and one of the reasons why we don't go out and re-tender is because of the costs, obviously, of re-tendering on individual projects. Is there any point in time where maybe we should try and align some of this work so that when we do need to go out, or is that just got me thinking, because I seem to see quite a few of these coming through. I'm wondering if there's a smarter way we can manage it together. Pose the question. I'm not asking for an answer right now, but
I've probably got quite a detailed answer for you because it's tied up in both the service that you're seeking, so different contractors are delivering different sorts of services. And I have mentioned before in the chamber about putting tension on to contractors, so rather than put out a 5-year contract or a 7-year contract, we reduce the time frame and then add some additional years on to keep that tension in for performing, and that's typically what you're seeing. Certainly one of the easier ways of going about it is to just put out a 5-year contract or something of that nature, but then you tend to lose the tension in performance.
I wasn't proposing that we might extend our contracts for longer terms, but was rather they all seem to be coming up at similar times, and
I'm not sure that there would be any benefit gained because, again, with different suppliers, you're still going to have different tenders. So the cost of producing this tender and say the one following are still going to be fairly similar costs, irrespective of what time you'd.
okay.
Yes.
No, it just begged the question because I've seen quite a few come through recently, and I understand the idea of tension that works for me.
Ordinarily, with these sorts of requests, you would get them spread out during the year, but because of the election cycle and the new financial year, the need to know early enough if we're going to have to go out to tender, then we need to plan that. So you've tended to compress the time over which we're bringing these to your attention.
Okay, that's a good answer. Thank you.
Councillor Hickling.
Dennis, what's the driving factors for the increase in the contract?
For this one is primarily cost escalation over the term of the contract.
When you say cost escalation, is that's petrol or is it wages? Or?
Typically with these term contracts we provide for cost escalation, and that's usually based on a formula using the CPI or something else. Within the conditions of contract there's a fairly complex formula for working out cost fluctuations, and that's really put in there to minimise the risk. If you put out a contract, say, for 3 or 5 years and you don't allow for cost escalations, then the contractor is going to take a punt on what's going to happen, and so they'll build that into the contract. If you tie that into a known formula, then you're taking that risk out of the contract.
Yeah, I just noticed that the next sort of 3 items, I think, there's an increase of around about 200,000 on each contract, give and take a few dollars.
That's the year.
That's for the year, yeah. It is an increase in that.
Through the chair, on this particular one, it's gone up from 188 to 196, which is actually only a 4% increase over 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's 188 per year, it's going up to 190, so it's 10 grand.
Before 200.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
guess the point he makes, so it's still more than the rate of inflation.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be 4%.
Over 3 years.
Yeah, just through the chair, just for due diligence more than anything, I suppose. Just with when you do these extensions on existing contracts, are there contractual obligations under the new health and safety?
Yeah, that's fully covered under the respective tenders, yes.
So any cost escalation, they will include any addition. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Christowski.
Lastly, following on the same theme, particularly on Councillor Jolin's ones, is that looking ahead is that organisations said that we are aligned to such as BOCLES and LES and various regional things. Is there any future benefit in joining up those bigger contracts so we can extrapolate a better negotiated price that whole region has?
That's always a consideration. One of the things that we need to be mindful as a district is when you start agglomerating contracts, you start reducing the contractor pool. You will have seen, and we've noticed it with NZTA reducing the contracts that have been serviced in the Taupo region from 3 down to 1. 2 contractors have gone. So then that's less contractors available to price for work locally. So it's weighing up what the benefit of getting a better pricing potentially against reducing competition. And that's something that you've got to consider.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Through the chair.
Councillor Williamson.
Just on the point of regarding the rate of inflation with regard to the increases, would that perhaps be more relevant to apply the local government cost index, or not necessarily the rate of inflation?
It's 4% increase over.
Yeah, but over 3 years. But
1 point something a year, which is probably inflation. So.
Maggie.
I'm coming from this end of the lake. I actually would like to move the suggested resolution because also knowing the Omori and the Turangi transfer stations and the work the staff are doing down there, they're kept really well. It's working, so I am quite happy to move this resolution.
Who is the contract, actually?
Yeah.
Metallic sweeping.
All right, been moved by Councillor Stewart, seconded by Councillor Christowski. Recommended resolution there. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Item number 5, street litter and recycling bin collection.
Your Worship, this is a contract within the Taupo Township region. I will take the item as read and take any questions.
Councillor Boddy.
Mr. Chairman, when I read this agenda item, I noted that on page 6 bar 2 it talked about 300,000 out of our current budget for 16-17, and the current budget is 200,000. I wrote to Mr. Lewis over the issue, and Mr. Lewis replied. And apparently there is, so what I'd like to do is see what our renewals are. If you've got 1.9 million, you take off 200,000. We've got, sorry?
Wrong paper.
Wrong paper.
Number 5.
Oh, you're on 5, sorry. Moved and passed.
You have a question, Mr. Lewis.
At least you know what it is.
There's a suggested resolution there. Moved by Councillor Park.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to move it. I just think they do a fantastic job.
And I believe it was seconded by Councillor Harvey.
Thank you.
All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried.